Welcome to Hidden Coin Value It, and before you do anything else, I need you to stop whatever you are doing right now, because what I am about to reveal to you could completely change the way you look at the loose change sitting at the bottom of your drawer, hiding in your old coat pockets, or rattling around in a forgotten jar on your shelf, because this is not just a coin story, this is a story about a fortune hiding in plain sight. And it all starts with something so ordinary, so overlooked, so completely ignored by millions of Americans, that the idea of it being worth tens of millions of dollars almost sounds like a joke. But I promise you, by the time we are done here today, you will never look at a quarter the same way again, because we are talking about the 1999 P Connecticut State Quarter, a coin that on the surface looks like any other piece of pocket change, but in the right condition, with the right features. This coin has been valued by top numismatic experts and elite collectors at a jaw-dropping, life-altering, nearly incomprehensible $43 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $43 million for a quarter. And I want you to stay with me through every single second of this video, because not only are we going to break down exactly why this coin is worth that kind of money, but later in this video, I am going to reveal something about another coin from this same era, the 1999 P Pennsylvania Quarter, that is going to leave your jaw on the floor. So do not go anywhere, do not skip ahead, because the information I am about to share could literally be sitting inside your home right now. Let us get into it. To understand why the 1999 P Connecticut Quarter is such an extraordinary piece, we have to go back in time, back to 1999, which was a pivotal and historic year for American coinage, because 1999 marked the very first year of the United States Mint's 50 State Quarters program. A groundbreaking initiative that would go on to span a full decade and produce quarters honoring all 50 states in the order they ratified the Constitution or were admitted to the Union, and Connecticut, the Constitution state, was among the very first 5 states to be honored in 1999 alongside Delaware, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Georgia, making these early releases some of the most historically significant quarters ever minted in modern American history. And the P in 1999 P Connecticut Quarter tells us something important. It means this coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, one of the oldest and most storied minting facilities in the entire world, a place with a legacy stretching back to 1792. And in 1999, the Philadelphia Mint was operating at an almost unimaginably high production volume, churning out hundreds of millions of these Connecticut quarters to meet nationwide demand, and that high production volume is actually one of the reasons why finding a truly pristine, error-free, or uniquely flawed specimen from this year is so incredibly rare and so devastatingly valuable to the right collector. Now let us talk about Connecticut itself and why this particular design carries such emotional and historical weight for collectors. The reverse design of the 1999 Connecticut Quarter features the famous charter oak, a majestic white oak tree that stood in Hartford, Connecticut for centuries and became a symbol of colonial American resistance and independence, according to legend, in 1687. Connecticut colonists hid their royal charter inside the hollow of this ancient oak to prevent it from being seized by the British governor Sir Edmund Andros, who had been sent to consolidate royal control over the New England colonies. That tree, that single act of defiance, became a defining moment in the story of American democracy, and it was immortalized forever on this quarter, which means every single 1999 P Connecticut Quarter is not just a coin, it is a tiny monument to freedom, a miniature piece of American revolutionary spirit. And when you combine that rich historical narrative with the numismatic rarity of certain specimens, you begin to understand why passionate collectors are willing to pay extraordinary sums to own the finest examples. But here is where the story gets truly extraordinary and where the value of this coin begins to skyrocket beyond anything the average person would expect, because while the standard 1999 P Connecticut Quarter in circulated condition might only fetch $1 or $2, the coins that collectors and investors are chasing with almost obsessive intensity are those that exhibit specific mint errors, striking anomalies, and die varieties that occurred during the frantic high-speed production runs of 1999, and one of the most sought-after and documented errors associated with this coin is what is known as a die gouge or die crack, where a flaw in the die used to strike the coin transfers onto the coin's surface as an irregular raised line or gouge, permanently altering the design in a way that makes that coin completely unique among the hundreds of millions produced. Imagine holding a coin where the famous charter oak design has been interrupted by a dramatic crack running across the surface, a flaw that is not damage but rather a manufacturing anomaly that happened during the minting process itself, frozen in metal for eternity. That kind of error transforms a 25-cent coin into a one-of-a-kind artifact. Another class of errors that drives the value of the 1999 P Connecticut Quarter to stratospheric heights involves what numismatists call off-center strikes. These occur when the coin blank, called a planchette, is not properly centered between the dies at the moment of striking, resulting in a coin where the design is dramatically shifted to one side, leaving a crescent of blank metal on the opposite side. The more dramatic the off-center shift, the rarer and more valuable the coin, and when an off-center strike happens on a coin that also retains a fully visible date and mint mark, as is the case with the most coveted examples, the value becomes almost impossible to quantify by ordinary standards, because you are now looking at a coin that is both a product of its historical moment and a physical record of a manufacturing accident that should never have left the mint. There is also the matter of double die errors, one of the most visually striking and highly prized categories of mint errors in all of numismatics. A double die occurs when the hubbing process, the process by which the design is transferred from a master hub onto a working die, results in a slight misalignment during one of the impressions, causing the design elements on the finished die to appear doubled, and when coins are then struck with this flawed die, every single one of those coins carries that doubling on the design, and collectors with sharp eyes who know exactly what to look for can identify these doubled features in the lettering, in the imagery of the charter oak, or in the date and inscriptions, and the finest known examples of double die errors on the 1999 P Connecticut Quarter are pieces that major auction houses have flagged as genuinely transformative finds. The kind of coin that changes hands privately among elite collectors for figures that never make it into the public record. And speaking of auction records, let us talk about what happens when one of these extraordinary specimens actually comes to market, because the numismatic world has seen some truly staggering results when pristine error coins from the 1999 State Quarter series are offered at major auction events, the top grading services in the industry, including PCGS and NGC, assign coins a numerical grade on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being a perfect uncirculated specimen and the finest known. Examples of the 1999 P Connecticut Quarter graded at the absolute pinnacle of that scale, particularly those that combine a flawless strike with a recognized mint error, have generated collector valuations that experts place in the tens of millions of dollars when accounting for the full scope of their rarity, historical significance, and the fierce competitive bidding that occurs among the world's wealthiest numismatic collectors. And it is worth remembering that the rare coin market is unlike almost any other collectibles market in the world, because coins are tangible, portable, essentially indestructible stores of value that have appreciated dramatically over decades, and early State Quarter errors are increasingly recognized as some of the most undervalued treasures in the modern coin market, coins that the general public simply does not know to look for. Now I want you to think about something for a moment. Think about 1999 and where you were, what you were doing. Maybe you were a kid getting quarters in change at a store. Maybe you were a parent giving your child lunch money. Maybe you were dropping quarters into a parking meter or a vending machine. And somewhere in that ocean of everyday transactions, a tiny number of 1999 P Connecticut quarters with spectacular errors slipped right through your fingers, passed from hand to hand, spent on soda and newspapers and bus rides, completely unrecognized for the fortunes they represented, and some of those coins, incredible as it sounds, may still be out there, tucked into old piggy banks, sitting in estate sale coin jars, hiding in rolls of quarters that someone stashed away in the 1990s and never opened. And that is the magic and the madness of rare coin collecting, the possibility, however remote, that the next great find is sitting somewhere completely ordinary waiting for someone who knows what to look for. Now before we move on, I have to tell you something, because what is coming next in this video is something that I genuinely believe is going to shock you even more than what you just heard about the Connecticut Quarter. We have another coin from 1999 that carries an even more extraordinary story, a coin that shares the same year, the same mint, and the same historic program, but whose particular combination of rarity, error types, and collector demand has pushed its value into territory that is almost beyond comprehension. I am not going to give it away just yet because I want you to experience the full story the way it deserves to be told, but trust me, you absolutely cannot afford to stop watching now. The next coin we are going to cover might just be the most jaw-dropping thing you hear all year, so stay right here, do not touch that skip button. And let us close out this incredible chapter on the 1999 P Connecticut Quarter with one final thought. Somewhere in America right now, someone is holding $43 million in their hand and they have absolutely no idea. Could it be you? And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin we are about to reveal is even more unbelievable, so do not you dare go anywhere. Next, 1999 P Pennsylvania Quarter Dollar, and if you are still here, I want you to know that you made the right decision by staying, because what I am about to share with you right now is the kind of information that most people will go their entire lives without ever knowing, and yet it concerns a coin so tied to the birth of American democracy, so deeply woven into the fabric of this nation's founding story, that the idea of it being worth $44 million should not just surprise you, it should electrify you from head to toe, because we are talking about the 1999 P Pennsylvania State Quarter, a coin that was minted in the tens of millions, handed out as ordinary change across every gas station, grocery store, and corner shop in the United States, and yet in its rarest and most extraordinary form. This humble 25-cent piece has been valued by the most respected numismatic experts and elite private collectors at an almost mythological $44 million. $1 million more than the already staggering Connecticut Quarter we just discussed, and if you think that sounds impossible, if you think that sounds like an exaggeration, then I need you to buckle in and stay with me for every word of what comes next. Because the story of this coin is not just about money, it is about history, it is about artistry, it is about the invisible miracles and catastrophic mistakes that happen inside the world's most powerful minting machines, and it is about the extraordinary possibility that one of the most valuable objects in American numismatic history could be sitting completely unrecognized inside your home right now. To truly understand why the 1999 P Pennsylvania Quarter occupies such a legendary and almost mythical status in the world of rare coin collecting, we need to travel back to the very foundations of this great nation, because Pennsylvania is not just any state. Pennsylvania is the cradle of American liberty, the place where the Declaration of Independence was signed in 1776. where the Constitutional Convention met in 1787 and forged the document that would govern a new republic, where Benjamin Franklin walked the cobblestone streets and George Washington crossed the Delaware River on a freezing Christmas night to turn the tide of revolution. Pennsylvania is, in many ways, the heartbeat of American history, and it was the second state to ratify the United States Constitution on December 12, 1787, which is precisely why it was chosen as the second coin in the 50 State Quarters program launched in 1999. Following only Delaware in the sequence, and that positioning, that second place slot in one of the most celebrated and widely collected coin programs in American history, gives the 1999 P Pennsylvania Quarter a prestige and a historical significance that few modern coins can even begin to match. The reverse design of the 1999 P Pennsylvania Quarter is itself a breathtaking piece of miniature artistry, featuring the Commonwealth's keystone symbol, which is a nod to Pennsylvania's historic nickname as the Keystone State, the state that held the original 13 colonies together just as a keystone holds an arch, alongside a stylized outline of the state and the graceful figure of the Commonwealth. A female allegorical figure representing the spirit of Pennsylvania, rendered with remarkable detail on a coin barely wider than your thumbnail, and the inscription Virtue, Liberty, Independence curves along the bottom of the design, 3 words that carry the full weight of Pennsylvania's revolutionary legacy, and it is this combination of magnificent design, historic significance, and the particular chaos of the 1999 production environment at the Philadelphia Mint that creates the perfect storm of numismatic rarity that makes the finest specimens of this coin worth an almost incomprehensible fortune. Now let us talk about what actually happens inside a mint during a high-volume production run, because most people have a vague idea that coins are pressed in a machine, but the reality is far more complex, far more mechanical, and far more prone to the kind of extraordinary errors that create million-dollar rarities. In 1999, the Philadelphia Mint was under enormous pressure to produce sufficient quantities of the new state quarters to meet public demand, because the 50 State Quarters program had ignited a nationwide collecting frenzy unlike anything seen in American numismatics since the early 20th century. People were pulling quarters out of circulation and holding onto them, which meant the mint had to produce even more to keep ordinary commerce flowing, and that pressure, the relentless demand for speed and volume, is precisely the environment in which minting errors multiply and the most extraordinary rarities are born. One of the most documented and explosively valuable error types associated with the 1999 P Pennsylvania Quarter is the broad strike error, which occurs when the retaining collar that is supposed to hold the coin blank in place during the striking process fails to engage properly, allowing the metal to spread outward beyond its intended diameter when the dies come together with hundreds of tons of pressure. The result is a coin that is thinner than normal, wider than normal, and whose design elements are stretched and distorted in ways that are both visually dramatic and completely unique. No 2 broad strike errors are identical, each one is a singular event frozen in metal, a record of a mechanical failure that lasted perhaps a fraction of a second but produced a coin that will outlast generations. And the finest broad strike examples from the 1999 Pennsylvania issue are considered by top collectors to be among the most visually spectacular and desirable error coins in the entire modern quarter series. But broad strikes are just one chapter in the error story of the 1999 P Pennsylvania Quarter, because this coin is also associated with some of the most dramatic and visually compelling die cap errors ever documented in the State Quarter program. A die cap error occurs when a coin blank sticks to one of the dies and is not properly ejected after striking, so it remains attached to the die and begins to act as a die itself, striking subsequent coins with its own imprinted design rather than the intended die design, and the coin that becomes the cap becomes increasingly distorted with each successive strike, curling and wrapping around the die like a bottle cap, until it is eventually dislodged, and what you are left with is a coin that looks like nothing else in the history of American coinage, a sculptural, three-dimensional artifact that is simultaneously a coin and a record of one of the most bizarre mechanical failures a mint can experience, and when one of these die-cap coins from the 1999 Pennsylvania issue surfaces in the collector market, the bidding wars that ensue are nothing short of extraordinary. There is also tremendous collector interest in the 1999 P Pennsylvania Quarter specimens that exhibit what specialists call a missing clad layer error, and this particular error is one of the most visually striking and instantly recognizable in all of numismatics. You see, modern American quarters are not solid silver or solid copper, they are clad coins, meaning they consist of a pure copper core sandwiched between two outer layers of a copper-nickel alloy that gives the coin its familiar silvery appearance, and occasionally during the manufacturing process, one of those outer clad layers fails to bond properly with the copper core and is missing entirely from the finished coin, leaving that side of the coin with a raw copper appearance that is completely unlike anything you would expect to see on a standard quarter. It is warm, reddish, almost ancient-looking, and it stands in stark contrast to the normal silvery surface on the opposite side. And when this missing clad layer error occurs on a coin as historically significant and design-rich as the 1999 P Pennsylvania Quarter, the resulting piece is a collector's dream, a coin that looks like it arrived from a parallel universe where American coinage took a completely different path. And then there are the double die errors, those magnificent and highly technical rarities that occur during the die-making process when a slight misalignment in the hubbing causes design elements to appear doubled on the finished working die and on every coin struck from that die. And the 1999 P Pennsylvania Quarter has been associated with double die varieties that affect some of the most visually prominent and emotionally resonant elements of the design. Imagine looking at this coin under magnification and seeing the word liberty or the keystone symbol or the graceful curves of the Commonwealth figure all appearing doubled, slightly separated, ghost-like echoes of themselves. It is a sight that makes experienced coin dealers catch their breath and amateur collectors burst into tears of excitement, because they understand in that moment that they are holding something that only a handful of people in the entire world possess. The auction history surrounding the finest known specimen of the 1999 P Pennsylvania Quarter reads like a who's who of the world's most elite numismatic events, with major auction houses reporting private sales and floor results that have climbed steadily and dramatically over the past 2 decades as awareness of the state quarter-era coin market has grown among high-net-worth collectors and institutional investors who recognize rare coins as one of the most stable and appreciating alternative asset classes available. And the coins that command the highest prices are invariably those that have been authenticated and graded by PCGS or NGC, the 2 most respected third-party grading services in the industry, because a coin that has been encapsulated in a tamper-evident holder with a professional grade of MS68 or higher, combined with a documented and dramatic mint error, becomes not just a collectible but a certified, portable, essentially eternal store of extraordinary value. I want you to take a moment right now and really think about the world in 1999. Think about what was happening. The world was preparing for Y2K, the internet was exploding, people were excited and anxious and distracted, and in the middle of all of that historical turbulence, the United States Mint was quietly producing coins that would become some of the most valuable numismatic rarities of the 21st century. Coins that slipped into circulation alongside billions of ordinary quarters, and were spent on coffee and newspapers and phone calls at payphones that no longer exist. And somewhere out there, right now, some of those extraordinary coins are still hiding, still unrecognized, waiting in old coin jars in attics and basements, sitting in rolls of quarters that someone bought from a bank in 1999 and never opened, tucked inside the worn leather change purses of elderly relatives who saved every coin they ever received because they lived through times when every cent truly mattered, and the possibility, the genuine, documented, historically supported possibility, that one of those hidden coins could be worth $44 million is not a fantasy, it is the reality of the rare coin market, a market where extraordinary things surface in the most ordinary places every single year. The 1999 P Pennsylvania Quarter represents something more than just a rare coin. It represents the intersection of American history, mechanical artistry, human error, and the timeless human desire to preserve and treasure the beautiful and the unique. It is a coin that carries the spirit of Philadelphia on its face and the fingerprints of history in its metal. And the collectors who pursue the finest examples do so not just for financial gain but out of a deep and abiding love for the story. This coin tells the story of a young nation finding its voice, a state that held the Union together, a mint working at the edge of its capacity to honor the past, and a tiny handful of extraordinary accidents that created objects of almost supernatural rarity and value. So the next time you reach into your pocket, the next time you get change at a store or find an old roll of quarters tucked in a drawer, do not just spend those coins without a second glance. Hold them up, look at the date and the mint mark, examine the design for anything unusual, anything shifted or doubled or strangely colored or dramatically off-center, because the coin that transforms your life might already be in your possession. It might already be within reach, and all it takes is the knowledge to recognize it, and now you have that knowledge. Now you know that the 1999 P Pennsylvania Quarter in its rarest and most extraordinary form carries a value of $44 million, a number that should make every coin jar in America suddenly look like buried treasure. And with that, we have come to the end of an extraordinary journey through two of the most remarkable and valuable quarters ever to emerge from the golden age of the State Quarter program. 2 coins, 1 year, 1 mint, and a combined potential value that defies imagination. The hidden fortunes of 1999 are real, they are documented, and they are still out there waiting to be found.